Hey, this is Jeff from The War for the Tower. We're an actual play podcast. We sponsor Unspoiled the Dresden Files. I guess this week we're on Unspoiled Doctor Who. That's cool. I love Doctor Who so much, so do several of our cast members. If you like actual play shows, if you like Stephen King, you might like The War for the Tower. It's set in the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. We use Kevin Cole's RPG system, Space Kings. It's really fast and robust and light, and all kinds of crazy stuff goes on in this show, y'all. It's interdimensional, characters from different time periods. So, you know, if you like Doctor Who, I think you're going to like us. So, yeah, check us out, warforthetower.com. Get us on the email, warforthetower@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Natasha, Jamie, you're awesome. Let me try that again. I had some chair noise. Natasha, Jamie, you're awesome. Unspoiled. Yay. Long days and pleasant nights, y'all.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 4, Episode 9. Why did I almost say 1? Silence in the Library. In this episode, this is real spooky. There's flesh-eating shadows, and Donna winds up as a computer mask droid thing. There's a lady who knows the doctor. There's a little girl whose brain is a computer simulation. Something's going on there. It's all very Black Mirror-y. I like this episode a lot. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
So, ma'am.
Yeah.
This episode is weird. I liked it a lot.
This is one of my favorite episodes in the entire series. I love it so much.
So many cool ideas in it, and I really didn't. I normally notice if it's like part 1 of 2, part, whatever. Mm-hmm. I did not notice. So when it just ended, I was like, what? Because it just ends with Donna fucking talking. It's the worst.
Donna Noble has been saved.
Yeah, I really like, because there's a lot of things, and this all remains to be seen how it plays out, because I don't know the answers to a lot of the mystery yet. Mm-hmm. But there are times in this show where the mystery feels kind of academic, like it just doesn't really matter in the scheme of other things. And that may be with this as well, but I think that the trying to figure out the mystery this time around has been more fun because of how original the ideas are here. This isn't just like, oh, aliens who are bad, or aliens who are trying to do a thing with human bodies, or maybe that is, but if it is, I don't know about it yet, so it's fine. And it's sort of like a video game in a way, where you start off someplace and you just have to find your way out. And the spooky, empty library, it really feels like a great setting for a video game to start off with. You begin in the library and you have to figure out what happened, Yeah. And it was very atmospheric, and it was slow paced and didn't treat us like dum-dums, and I liked it.
Did you notice who wrote it?
Is it I always want to call him Lindelof, and then I want to say Benioff, and then I want to say Weiss.
No.
What's his name?
Not my BFF, Damon Lindelof, and not those jags. It's Stephen Moffat.
Moffat, thank you.
This is another...
Do you know how I remember his name?
How?
I try and think about eating curds and whey on a tuffet.
Muffet.
Yep.
Yeah, this is another one of his, and he's really good at. Look, I'm not going to give Stephen Moffat a ton of praise, but on these one-off episodes that he does for Doctor Who, I think most of the time, probably every time, it's one of his episodes. They're among the best. Girl in the Fireplace, Blink, The Doctor Dances, that two-parter about World War II. Like, those are among the highlights of each season that they're in, you know? Mm-hmm. And this is another one of his, and there's just such cool ideas in here, like you said. And the idea of there being these, like, shadow swarms that just eat you.
They eat your face off.
It's just, like, how do you make something benign terrifying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's how to make something benign terrifying. And I really think that we've talked a bunch of times about how there doesn't need to be two parts to certain storylines. Like, you guys are just dragging this out. But this is one of those that I really think all of the spookiness and the atmosphere and the tension benefited so much from taking everything slowly.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, like, it was a gradual build of like, oh, this is cool. Oh, something's wrong. Oh, this is weird. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Oh my God. You know? And that's what you want. That's what I'm looking for.
Yep. Plus we get Professor River Song.
Yeah, what is with the name? Her parents had to have been giant hippies, right? Like, this is my common law wife, Rain Melon. This episode starts off, too, in this really gripping way. It's something, again, that they've done before that I have not bought, which is starting off an episode from the perspective of somebody other than the Doctor or his companion. And oftentimes I'm just like, who are you and why do I care? Answer, I don't. Who cares who you are? And this one, I actually was very much immediately like, what is this? What is she doing? This little girl is floating. There's a city. This is alarming. This feels unsafe. Who are these people talking to her? I don't trust these guys at all. And as it turns out, maybe I shouldn't. One of them maybe. But I'm not even sure about him, to be honest.
Which one?
It feels like... Well, Dr. Moon, I think she can trust. I think.
You think she can't trust her dad?
Why should she trust her dad? What child should really trust their father? Let's be honest.
What a terrible thing to say. I have a great father.
Listen, kids, don't trust your parents. Just flat out.
What about Dr. Moon?
Should he trust his parents?
No, should she trust Dr. Moon? His name is Dr. Moon.
Is that supposed to be good?
I don't know. Sounds like a supervillain.
It does sound like a supervillain. Oh my God. What's Dr. Moon's superpower? Fuck. I gotta brainstorm this. A
little quick piece of trivia. Apparently they asked both Michael, or they wanted either Michael Gambon or Ian McKellen to play Dr. Moon. How crazy would that have been? And
no
Russell,
offense to the actor who was playing him, but like that's a real come down to not have after you try to get those two.
And then they Russell T Davies originally wanted Kate Winslet to play River Song because he had worked with her on something, but she wasn't available or something. Or no, they screen tested Alex Kingston and they were like, oh no, she's definitely River Song. But Kate Winslet would have been interesting. I can't even picture it because I think Alex Kingston is so incredibly perfect in this role that I just can't see anybody else doing it.
It's always so weird when you think about them trying to cast somebody other than the person that is so obviously the role.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember who was supposed to be John Wick before
I don't know.
Keanu Reeves? I feel like it was like Nicolas Cage or some fucking person that you were just like, what? Like, the whole fucking series would have been absolutely 180 different. But I would like to think that there are alternate timelines in which those actors were in those movies. And that if we learned how to like break through the space-time continuum, we could watch a weirdo Nicolas Cage version of John Wick.
That would be awful.
I would love to see it. Come on. I'm just thinking about so many moments in that movie with his weird face, if it were there instead. But yeah, so this little girl's like talking about how when she closes her eyes, she goes to the library. And I really thought, so I can't remember, did you read Dresden Files?
No, not yet.
Okay, so mild spoilers for Dresden Files, but it's not really that big a deal. There is a character in that book series called the Archive. He winds up like calling her Ivy because she doesn't have a regular human name, but she is a human child, and she is gifted by accident a lot younger in life than she is supposed to be gifted the knowledge of all written information known to man, and can access all of it at any given point, including if you wrote something down on a piece of paper right now, she would be able to read it.
That's a cool superpower. I would like that.
And it is a super, like, she's very young, and she has this sort of seriousness to her that she should not have at her age. And this little girl, you know, like floating around and closing her mind and being in a library, it feels so similar to me to what I imagine it like in Ivy's head. And I kind of wondered if that was what this little girl was going to be, with some sort of like repository for all of the knowledge, like that it was all virtual and all like maybe she was either an android or had like something uploaded to her brain that wasn't supposed to be there or something. And as it stands now, I still don't really know what's like, that could still be true, but I don't see the Doctor and Donna winding up in here this way if it's all virtual without them having been, I don't know. Can the TARDIS do that? Can the TARDIS like be like project them into an alternate reality or a?
I don't think so.
You know,
I don't want to like shut down your theories or anything, but
no, it's not really even a theory. It's just like a kind of spitballing.
It's
thing.
more like, my question was more how is she accessing this stuff that's supposed to be in her head, or maybe not, because I don't know, the phone was ringing, the TV showed him talking to her. Mm-hmm. Like, how is that happening? Where is she for that to happen?
Yeah, I don't know if there's like, maybe she's not real, because this guy, Dr. Moon, comes and talks to her and is like, all of this real world isn't real. The library is real. And they're all depending on you. And I'm like, well, maybe she's totally not a little girl. Maybe that's what she thinks she is right now. And it's going to turn out that she's like fucking, I don't know,
what was that?
1,000-year-old librarian or something.
What was the thing in Game of Thrones? Old Nan told Bran a story about how they were all just living in the eye of a giant. Do you remember
I don't remember
that?
that one. No. I believe you, because that sounds like something Old Nan would definitely say.
It was a giant named Macumber, and I can't remember the details. It's strange that I can remember that much of it. But yeah.
It reminds me of like the ending of Men in Black when the Earth is just a marble in a game for a giant alien.
Yeah. Like, what if it's something like that?
I mean, it could be.
It very well
I don't know
could
how
be.
they would get in there, is the thing. You know,
well,
like,
it's real. It's the world.
It's just very small.
It's just very small compared to this other thing.
that doesn't make sense to me, but then you are very small.
What's that?
That's an ent. That's an ent, everybody.
Oh, right. Like, you're talking like something from Lord of the Rings, but I can't place it.
I love that you knew that was Lord of the Rings, but it was just like, no, that's clearly Lord of the Rings. I don't know what character, I don't know what this is,
I
but
can't. Considering how I know those movies inside out, for some reason my brain was like, this is familiar, but don't have time to figure it out.
And also, I want to know where they filmed this, because this library that they go into for the opening scene with the round, like, skylight and the really awesome, like, I think it's like painted wrought iron railings around the upper story of the balcony of the library. It could just be a set, and it very well may be a set. But if it is, somebody did a real good job, because this shit looks like a real place that they just happened to set up for this scene.
I am going to look it up right now, because there's always a list of filming locations. Let me see.
So yeah, for this opening scene, this little girl is like being told to go back into the library, and the little girl goes back as she is instructed, and all of a sudden the door starts rattling. And she says someone's trying to get in. She's never mentioned anyone else. She's always been alone, her father says. And, you know, her father just seems like a dum-dum who doesn't know. He may be nefarious in keeping secrets from her, but he may just be some dum-dum who doesn't know. So, I don't know. I don't trust him. But, you know, I don't trust anybody. Ooh, you sent me something. Victoria Park, Cardiff. Palace Road, Cardiff. Crews Medical Center, Cardiff. St. Mary's of the Angels. That's a Chicago church that pops up in Dresden also.
I'm guessing that's...
Swansea Library?
Yeah, I'm guessing the library, or at least parts of the library scenes were done in the Swansea Library. I don't know what Alcoa Emp Swansea is.
Yes, it is. It's the Swansea Library. I just Googled Swansea Library and I can see this like round. Oh, it's so cool looking, guys. If you live near this, go check it out. It looks dope. Libraries can be the raddest places, and I mean that totally apart from the fact that they hold books. Books are great, whatever. I'm talking about the architecture and the overall atmosphere. Like, you just can't beat a library a lot of the time. Where is someplace else that, like, the average person is allowed to go?
Yeah.
You know, you could talk about it, like state buildings and whatever, but those are so fucking exclusive that it sort of loses any context of the ordinary person.
Yeah.
Oh, this looks so cool. I want to go so bad. Okay.
I'm going to look it up while you're talking.
Yeah, it could have been a set, but it just didn't strike me as one. And apparently they do like events and speeches and whatnot in that room.
It's a free public library too. I mean, I guess all libraries are kind of free, are they not?
I think so. Unless they're like in a on a college campus
wait.
where I don't know if it's like restricted to get in.
I'm sorry. This is in Massachusetts. This is not the right one.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. Central Library. No?
Yeah. Reference Library at Swansea. Yeah, this is cool though. I always enjoy finding out. Like, I would like to go to Wales, and there's got to be a Doctor Who tour, right? Like, there's got to be like 20.
Yeah, there's something around Cardiff, I believe, that you can see. The filming locations and stuff.
It's called the Round Reading Room.
Neat.
And honestly, if anything, because this episode has to rely so much on shadows, it didn't quite do this awesome room justice because they had to have the lights so low for so much of it. So there are a couple of other some photos of it from inside during an ordinary day, and there's all this like lighting in the bookshelves that looks really, really awesome. And they had to sort of tone that down and make it this bluish light for Doctor Who. But anyway, so the Doctor and Donna come pounding through the door, and he's like, "Oh, hey, sorry to just come in on you like this. But hope you don't mind that we're here." And she wakes up, and then we go to the credits, and when we come back, we have gone earlier on before the two of them have encountered this little girl. Only once they encounter her, she's no longer a little girl. She is a weird robot security system thing. And the Doctor is excited because this is the library. It doesn't even need a name. The biggest library in the universe. And he's like trying to play it off like this is totally where he planned to go. But we find out that is not actually the case. And Donna is a little irritated because she had been expecting a trip to the beach. And really does not feel like just doing some bookwormy stuff right now. Thank you very much. I have to say, Donna is entitled to a beach vacation. After everything that they have been through. I think that she gets to do that. And I feel bad that got taken away from her, that dream. But I also will say her outfit is very good in this episode.
The dress over jeans?
I'm loving it.
Oh, God, I hate
She's got this dress. She's got the Empire waist. It's like very 90s to me. It's like, obviously, we're later than the 90s, but it looks 90s to me. This whole outfit is vaguely 90s. And she's got that like giant oversized pendant necklace. And then this weird like sleeveless cardigan, which is one of those things that I always like the look of, but I always feel ridiculous trying to pull one off because they're so impractical. Like, what's the point of a cardigan if it doesn't have sleeves on it? You put a cardigan on to keep warm because the other shirt you have is sleeveless. So a sleeveless cardigan is just foolishness. It's just nonsense.
Well, it's just a really long, vest, almost, when there's no sleeves on it.
And it, comes down in the front. It's like a high-low, except backward. Low-high, I guess. But anyway, yeah. I really like her outfit in this. And the Doctor is trying to play it off, again, like this is part of the plan. And yeah, it starts to dawn on him that they are standing in what is supposed to be the library, and there is nobody here. This doesn't make any sense. Where did everybody go? And this library, by the way, is like the entire planet. So there's a street that says xenobiology and art. There's a street. There's railways. There's for I mean,
there's stoplights.
This is really cool looking. So he decides to do a scan for life forms, and he does a scan looking for humanoid and gets nothing. But then when he does one that's like for...
No, he gets two.
Oh, right. Them two. Donna, maybe everyone's really, really quiet. She says that with this look on her face. Guys, I cannot emphasize enough how much I love Donna in this moment. She's trying so hard to be patient, but she does not fucking care. She doesn't care. She just wants to get back on the TARDIS and go somewhere sunny and get a goddamn strawberry daiquiri and just chill out for a second. And he's over here poking around. This is like when your parents tell you that they're going to take you to Toys R Us, but first you need to go to the bank, and then something goes wrong at the bank, and you have to wait for 40 minutes for that thing to get straightened out. That's the vibe that I'm getting from Donna in this scene.
It's very specific.
Child impatiently waiting for her parent to get done fixing the thing at the bank so that she can go to Toys R Us.
Did this happen to you?
No, but that's okay.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be torture?
Yes. It's just so specific that I felt like it had to have been something you experienced as a child.
My parents were way too smart to take me to fucking Toys R Us ever. That did not happen one time. Not once. I was just not to be trusted. Toys R Us is also the devil. Don't shop there, guys.
Well, it's gone. They went bankrupt.
No, Jamie. It was going bankrupt. They laid everybody off with no warning, denied them all their pensions, and then 3 months later announced a comeback.
They did?
They sure did.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can find out all about it. They're trash. It gets me so angry. Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff on Twitter about it a few months ago. So, yeah, she asks, why are we here, really? And he's like, just passing, as they look through. And then this is when now that's interesting, scanning for life forms. If I do a scan looking for, book readers, few limbs, and a face, apart from us, I get nothing. Zippo, nada. But then, when I widen the parameters to any kind of life, and then we get 100 million, or a million. Is that more than a billion?
Yeah.
A million. Wouldn't it be a million billion? Well, he says it just can't go up any higher than that. So they can't figure it out. And Donna tries to say, well, maybe it's the books. Is it one of the books? And I love the way that they look at one another when she says that. And he, glances at this book and very slowly opens up the book. Guys, I'm not kidding here. I genuinely, was worried. And this voice just says, welcome. And I thought they were going to get eaten like the Monster Book of Monsters. I thought it was going to snap down on their hand and start to, that?
Yeah.
But no, there is a voice summoning them from another room. I really feel like these books are the thing, though, and that there are people in them. This is my theory, that there are people in the books that got somehow sucked into this information superhighway to be saved from the shadows, because if they are not like then they're okay.
Okay.
That's my theory, but it's very much like a work in progress. So they go to talk to this.
It's called a
deeply
node.
Upsetting fucking.
He donated a face.
There's no reason to make this thing so tall. You're just trying to kind of fucking unsettle people, I think. If you're not only is it really tall, but it's at the top of this strange, amorphously shaped sort of pillar that's looks like just some clay that somebody just squeezed, like a little kid, you gave them some Play-Doh. And if they just squeezed it and then put it down, and their fish shape was still embedded in it. It sort of looks like that. It's inappropriate. There's something vaguely phallic about it. It's extremely simplistic for something that also is just going to have a fucking human face sticking out of it. Make it either very humanoid or not at all. Don't do this. This is some Return to Oz shit. This is like the Hall of Faces. I don't like it. And this woman has a perfectly pleasant face, and it's just rendered fucking horrifying in this context. And it's just, and of course, Donna, that face looks real. Yeah, don't worry about it. Doctor, don't you ever respond to somebody voicing a doubt like that with "don't worry about it"? There is no more suspicious response that you could have made right there. You could have just said, "Yeah, it does, doesn't it?" And then just moved on. and just act like you don't know, or whatever, but don't worry about it. What is this? The Room? So she winds up giving them a message in almost Monty Python-esque sorts of like, you know, the castle of except it's, run for your lives. Run, for God's sake, run. Nowhere is safe. The library has sealed itself. We can't. Oh, they're here. Arg, slarg, snick. Message ends. Freely.
I forgot about that part. The arg, slarg, slick.
Ack, slick. For God's sake, remember, if you want to live, count the shadows. Message ends. Now, listen, if you could have recorded a message, make it a little fucking more specific.
Can't do that when you have to have a mystery around it.
No, I understand for the sake of plot. This is instruction for any of you in the future. If you need to record a life-saving, potentially life-saving recording for somebody, don't be cute about it. Okay, guys? Don't try and be like mysterious. Don't try and well, they'll figure it out. Just tell people, hey, these shadows will literally eat your face off. So, you know, just to watch out for that. That's all it takes. I mean, luckily, the person getting this message, the doctor, knows about this. So he is able to figure out what exactly the warning really is. But, you know, if it wasn't him getting this message, and I imagine there have to have been some that have, well, I guess that they're the first ones in 100 years, huh? So maybe not. But, like, yeah, this message would not done a whole lot of good for a lot of other people. But, yeah, he is telling Donna to avoid the shadows. And she just says, why? What's in the shadows? And then the camera pulls back, and we see that this room that they were in is very shadowy, as is so many other parts of this library. Oh my God. This place where they are in the really long corridor and the lights begin to shut out.
Mm-hmm.
Dislike. This is like a nightmare. This is the moment in a nightmare where you have that like fisheye Frodo on the path as the Black Riders are coming. Thing.
Get off the road.
Get off the road, quick! Yeah, I hated this, and I hate that they both stand and stare at it for a second. I mean, it doesn't take long. The doctors immediately, like, run after the first one. But there's a moment of them standing, staring, and I was like, guys, oh my God, go! And she tells him to use the sonic screwdriver to open that door because it's locked for them to, like, get out of the section. But he says that he can't. It's wood. To which I was like, come on, of course you can. Well, it turns on, you can. Hang on, I can vibrate the molecules, fry the bindings, I can shatter the... And she just says, oh, get out of the way, and kicks it open. And then they close it again. And he is able to close it with a book, which, again, that might be a person. So thanks to whoever that is keeping the door closed. Appreciate you. And when they come in and he says his line about like, oh, sorry to barge in on you, we see the little girl wake up and then this like weird wooden security camera ball falls to the ground. This thing is really cool looking.
The security camera thing?
Yeah. It's all like wooden, which is unexpected. Is this tied in with the fucking weirdo human heads inside of space capsules?
What?
Ah, shit. You know that episode that I really hated where all of a sudden the doctor's Jesus and there's a bunch of human beings from the future whose heads are in balls.
Oh, God. Once again, I forgot anything from season 3. No, it is not. It's not the Utopia, whatever, Troglodytes, whatever they were called.
Troglodytes. I don't know if that's right. It could be, for all I know. It doesn't sound right, but... Because, I did get a little concerned that this little girl's head was in that ball.
No.
Okay, I'm glad to hear it. Don't you laugh at me. It's a distinct possibility on this show.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at how that never even occurred to me. Because I always forget about season 3 stuff.
So yeah, he's using his sonic screwdriver to try and like open up the thing and figure out what's going on. And this poor little girl on her end is like screaming in pain. Mm-hmm. And as he's doing it, they're, looking around and he's... Donna says, "Are we safe?" And he says, "Of course we're safe. There's a little shop." Which, I don't know what that means. But...
He's a big fan of places that have a little shop. He likes hospitals. He always likes to gift shop at hospitals. And I'm guessing museums. And he mentions it when they go to New Earth, he and Rose. He mentions the little shop.
Oh.
And then it comes up.
That's right. I vaguely remember that now. Okay. Yeah.
It comes up like one other time I can't think of. So yeah. And here he's like, "Oh, they got a little shop. How bad can it be?"
Sir, capitalism
is
no good. Don't use that to comfort yourself.
And also, don't use that to comfort yourself when you know the little shop that was at the hospital was just a hive of human trafficking and growing people into disease bombs. A bunch of zombies you had to heal.
Disease bombs. A bunch of human dirty bombs.
Yeah, it just, whatever. It's just a cute line, but it's not logical in any way. Because every time you're someplace with a little shop, something terrible happens.
That's true. That does seem to be the pattern. You'd think that little shops would actually be like a red flag for him now. So yeah, the little girl drops to the ground when he uses this thing, and you see the same symbol on the carpet under her as on the ball.
Oh, you noticed that?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that until I saw it in the trivia.
Yeah, it's like, so this is like part of where I'm just like, is this ball like, is this all just in its brain? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's like, I almost thought if this were a different type of show, that was like a spell, a rune used to like keep her there, you know? But it doesn't feel like that's what this show really is about. But yeah, he says it's alive, and I was like, excuse me? I don't like this at all. And that was part of why I thought there was a fucking head in there also. So, yeah. This poor girl is just like looking around and says, others are coming. And Dr. Moon says, who? Who are the others? And she says, the library is breached. Others are coming. And I noticed that he didn't say, breached the library. What do you mean? He says, what others? And I was like, And then it turns out later that he does know what's up, because it just seemed like that's a question you ask when you kind of are tired of playing along that you don't know what's up. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I should add that the little like ticker that goes across this machine that says words, when he's using the screwdriver, it says stop, no, and he's like, oh God, sorry, so sorry. Which I found really funny. Just like, oh, so rude of me. My goodness, where are my manners? And this is when River Song and her crew shows up. Mm-hmm. Oh, also this is when Donna finds out about the real faces. This dude is absolutely a disaster. This flesh aspect was donated by Mark Chambers on the occasion of his death. And she looks at the doctor and is like, you knew? Like, how dare you? It has been actualized individually for you from the many facial aspects saved to our extensive flesh banks. Don't like that.
I keep trying to figure out. It's not like what is it again with Game of Thrones? Is it the Hall of Faces?
I think so, yeah.
Where Arya with the House of Black and White?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that. I don't think they're peeling off people's faces and then using them as masks later or whatever.
Oh, you don't?
It says it was the flesh aspect, which means it's an assimilation of somebody's face.
It said it was selected from their flesh bank.
Well, yeah, but I don't think it's the actual flesh of that person's face. I think the person gave permission to use his face, a simulation of his face.
I think you're being very optimistic. I think they use the word aspect rather than face because it's less horrifying to say out loud.
Apparently, that one, the male one, is the guy from Thor in the first Thor that played the one that Zachary Levi played in the other movies. The blonde one.
No memory.
Yeah. He
does look vaguely familiar.
Not the one with the beard and not the Asian one. I can't remember the names of any of Thor's crew other than Loki. Sorry, guys. But he was... whatever. That guy. I can remember the actor's name.
Indeed.
Just can't remember the name of the character. Hold on, I've got it.
You know, that guy.
Fandral. His name is Josh. Josh Dallas. He was on Once Upon a Time, so Candace would know who he is.
Oh, that's what I recognize him from. He's Prince Charming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He's charming. Because he looked vaguely familiar, and I saw the first 2 seasons of Once Upon a Time, but never watched any more of it. So
you made it that far. I only made it to the end of the first season, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, it became my folding clothes show, and then it became my background while I'm in the kitchen and can't see the television show, and then it became my nothing show. So those are the stages of downgrading in my world. Yeah, I admire your optimism. She says, I'm going to quote this to you, Jamie.
Okay.
Because she says, it shows me a dead face it thought I'd like. That statue's got a real dead person's face on it.
Yes, but I just don't think it's they peeled off the skin off of somebody's face and put it onto a statue. They chose a face from their banks. It's like a hologram.
She said a real dead person's face.
Yes,
to me, that's the actual skin of the face.
Then how is Donna on a statue at the end? Do you think she's dead?
No, I think that it's magic.
Okay.
That there's some sort of weird enchantment.
Maybe so.
It would be pretty dope if that's how she died, though. I don't want Donna to die, don't get me wrong, but, what a way to go.
Just gets zapped out of the TARDIS, and then her face shows up on a statue. On a block of marble.
Is that marble?
I don't know.
What that is?
It's just white granite.
It looks like the plastic, fake marble countertops that you get in a cheap home.
Yeah.
I.e. my home. It's the 51st century. It's like donating a park bench.
So callous.
So she's backing away from it in horror, and the doctor stops her. And she's like, what's the big deal? And he says, yeah, see that shadow? There is nothing casting it. And he is looking around, trying to figure out where that's come from. And it's a pretty good, creepy moment. And then he jumps and yells, oh, I'm thick. Look at me. I'm old and thick. which I really need some moment, and it has to be candid, of film of me dancing or doing something where somebody just superimposes his dialogue there over me dancing, where it just says, "Look at me, I'm old and thick." Because it just feels so true, and yet totally does not mean the same thing to me. Head's too full of stuff. I need a bigger head. Yep, I want all of that. And
look, you have a wedding coming up. You think I'm not going to film you dancing and then get somebody to do this? You don't know me.
So he says he's like figuring it out, and she's like, well, what's the deal with the dark? And he says it's not dark. And we look, and the fucking shadow that had been there is gone. And he says, we need to get back to the TARDIS. And she says, why? And because that shadow hasn't gone. It's moved. And I'm like, Doc, just tell her what the fuck is happening. He is doing this thing, this mysterious thing, where he's figured it out, but he isn't sharing the information with her yet. And I'm just like, you need to talk to your lady. Get her on the same page as you, buddy. Come on, let's all work together here. So then we get the reminder, library has been breached, others are coming. And here comes Riversong, who clearly knows the Doctor. Mm-hmm. Clearly recognizes him. Calls him sweetheart.
Sweetie.
Or sweetie, yeah.
Yep. Hello, sweetie.
And he clearly does not recognize her.
Did you
This is a very time traveler's wife moment.
Well, that's funny, because apparently this and The Girl in the Fireplace, Moffat was very, very influenced by that book.
Oh. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't really think about it, because I just assumed that these episodes were before that book. But, yeah, I'm all messed up on the timelines here of when things came out.
How did you feel about Riversong when you first meet her?
When I first met her, I was like, is this lady shady? And honestly, I'm still not sure. She might be shady. But I liked her anyway. I just thought maybe she was going to be shady, like in a Better Call Saul kind of way, where it was like lovable. You know what I mean?
Chaotic.
And again, she may still be.
She might be.
But she has a good vibe to her that I like.
She just has the most amazing hair.
Yeah, she do have good hair. As someone with similar hair,
yeah,
I wouldn't mind it doing a little bit more of what it does there. But
well, if you had a professional team to do it, I bet it could.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever watch ER?
No.
Because she was on ER for years.
Okay.
That's what I knew her from before this. And she just always had that giant curly
mop.
Hair. Yeah, not even a mop, just like incredible hair. Just so cool. She's great. I love her so much. I love her in this role, but I love that actress so much. I was so excited to see her when the first time I watched this, because I was like, oh, this is going to be good, because she's amazing.
Is she on ER? Does she still have an accent, or is she doing an American accent?
Yeah, she still has an accent.
Okay.
She plays a doctor from the UK.
Gotcha. So she's got this whole team, and they are archaeologists, and the Doctor has some like less than kind things to say about archaeologists, which she seems to find very amusing, because she hasn't yet realized that he doesn't know who she is. She kind of feels like he's playing a little bit of a flirty game, mm-hmm. And it becomes apparent quickly later on that he has no idea what the fuck she's talking about. She keeps talking about she says something about Asgard and going to, like, doing a picnic.
A picnic at Asgard, yeah.
Yeah. And has this real, like, look on her face, like this was just the best memory. And I really am, like, worried that that's going to be a little thing that we get told that we never get to see. I hope that we get to see the picnic on Asgard. I'm just going to feel really ripped off if that isn't something that like comes up. So I hope that y'all are ready for me to throw a little bit of a tantrum in case that doesn't happen. And this is when we start to like get to know the crew, and this one dude who is like funding things, Mr. Lux. Mm-hmm. He is a real piece of shit. Mm-hmm. He does not care about his crew. He just cares about like his family's name and their reputation and pride and whatnot. There is his
typical
assistant,
rich white man.
right? His assistant, Miss Evangelista, who is adorable.
Yeah,
I love her. And she is a bit of a dum-dum and is unfortunately aware of the fact, which is just heartbreaking. Like, it's one thing to not be very intelligent. It's another thing to not be very intelligent and be like aware that you're not very intelligent, which just seems like really cruel. Like, if you don't know, then you're all right. But if you know, that's like, who gave you just enough awareness to be like kind of tormented by the fact that you're not better at things? You know, it just seems really rude.
Isn't it worse when you're super dumb but think you're fucking smart?
It's worse for everybody else around you.
Yeah.
But it's worse for the person to be not smart and know that they're not smart and know that everybody around them is laughing at them because they're not smart and they can't actually like improve.
Well, and these people don't really try to make it easier for her.
True.
They are pretty openly awful.
Mocking.
Yeah. And I get it.
One
like,
of the girls
she
says something about how she couldn't tell the difference between the escape pod and the bathroom and they had to go back for her twice.
Yeah.
Is that honestly what happened, or are they saying that and that was them bullying her?
I think that happened. They're trying to explain to Donna how stupid she is.
I was just thinking that maybe it happened one time and then a second time they were like just kind of being dicks and like tricked her or something. But honestly, based on the conversation that Donna has with her later, where she's pleased to be have the IQ of a plankton. Maybe not. Maybe that is exactly what happened. Poor thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel so bad for her. But, you know, her pain is short-lived because she winds up getting her face eaten off. All of her flesh eaten off. And here comes a scene that I found extremely upsetting. Because those of you who are patrons will have seen my post about my aunt yesterday. And I have this aunt that I grew up with who is extremely intelligent and really funny and very independent and stylish and great. And she has Alzheimer's. And I called her yesterday because she got found walking around and did not know where she was and was admitted to a hospital. And she's been really resistant to going to a hospital or any sort of care facility. And when I talked to her, her memory is so much worse than I expected. I had spoken to her a few months ago and it was not this bad.
How old is she?
I think she's 67.
Okay.
She might be a little younger than that. And the way that this conversation with Miss Evangelista's like brain impulses.
Oh, her data ghost?
It is so very similar to speaking to somebody with Alzheimer's. It really unnerved me watching this today. Like, my aunt was starting sentences, not finishing them, then immediately starting them again because she forgot that she had just started to say this. Or she would answer a question and then ask the question again of me that I had just answered that she had asked a second ago. Like, she would go in circles. And
she knew who you were, though?
No.
Oh.
She knew who I was for the first 5 minutes. And then I was my mom.
Okay.
And it was weird. The first 5 minutes when she knew who I was, she asked if I had talked to my dad lately, who has been dead 6 years.
Yeah, that's rough.
And it was a really like, it was one of those conversations where you're just trying to hold it together until it's over. And I hung up and I just like started hysterically crying because I was not ready. I thought that I knew what she was going to be like based on how she had been the last time I spoke to her. And I've come to find out that like Alzheimer's is, you know, the good days tend to be when somebody is stable and in a familiar place and has had like several days of peace in a row. And she was probably doing badly, not just because the disease is advancing, but also because she had just gone through this trauma and was in a strange place and all of this.
Yeah.
So it was worse than really it is at the moment. But the horror of this moment when they all find her and realize what happened and it seems like she's still there it made a huge effect on me. And I thought that they really took their time letting it happen and letting everybody like feel it and there was no fucking irritating score over it that was just hammering shit a little bit too much home. It was just her voice and poor fucking Donna, who says like, that is the most horrible thing I have ever seen. And, you know, it is. It's like her consciousness was there for a second still.
Yeah.
But she's technically gone. And that's what it's like. My aunt's going to be gone, but she feels gone already.
Yeah.
You know? And, yeah, this just messed me up.
That's how it is with my grandma. She doesn't know who we are most of the time. And I'd still, it's been years and I just don't know how to process it. It's, you know, it doesn't get easier. My mom handles it really well and my aunt handles it really well, but it's really hard for me.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's just, and it was weird, like you said about, her knowing who I was. Like, I really thought at first, because she called me by my mom's name. And then I said, no, this is Natasha. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, Tosh. I thought that it was Jen, because I sound a lot like my mom if you talk to both of us on the phone. That happens all the time. So I really did think that was all it was. And then it just sort of like slipped away again. And at one point I said something about kids being a pain. And she said, well, that's why you only had one. And it was just like weird moments like that of like a disconnect, you know?
Yeah.
And the synapses seeming to go in a loop. So at one point when she's just repeating herself, it was very much like what it feels like is happening. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here because we haven't dealt with the whole weird like interplay with the telephone and the television with the little girl.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is weird, and I don't know what to make of it. It's like this place is like inside the security camera, and they're trying to like get into the security camera, and it's manifesting like an actual phone call, like she's a living person. And I don't know if she really, because the doctor says it's alive, and I don't really know how literal that is, like, because it could be an electronic consciousness that really, for all intents and purposes, is alive. Or is it an actual, like, flesh and blood person's consciousness? Or what? But I don't know. And she's calling her father to try and, like, have him answer the phone, and he doesn't even hear it ringing. And she goes over to it and is about to pick it up when it stops ringing. And then she looks up, and the doctor is in her television. And this interaction is so funny, because she says, "Are you in my television?" And he really clearly doesn't really know how to respond to that. Just says, "Well, no, I'm sort of in space. I was trying to call up the data core of a triple grid security processor." And she says, "Would you like to speak to my dad?" Which is precisely what you would say if a grown-up showed up talking gibberish to you, right? Summon a parent. I don't know what the fuck you're saying to me, sir. Like, what? So she recognizes the doctor and says, "Oh, I know you. You were in my library. The library's never been on television before. What have you done?" And he just says, "Well, I just..." And then, boom, cartoon comes back. So, and then it says access denied. And that symbol shows up again. The one that's on the old wooden thingy and on the carpet. So yeah, dislike. This little girl is so cute, honestly. I don't know where they found her, but she's also a pretty good actress for how young she is.
Yeah. I read that they originally wrote it as a little boy, but they decided to make it a little girl because they thought that that would make the child more sympathetic and also make you feel like she might be in danger. Like you'd feel more protective if it's a little girl than a little boy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So the doctor, meanwhile, is like trying to sneak peeks at this TARDIS book.
Yeah.
And River is like, "Yeah, no, you don't
Spoilers.
get to do that." And he's like, "Well, why not?" And she says it's against the rules. Your rules, actually. And she talks to Donna a little bit later about how cut up she is to talk to the doctor and have him totally disregard her. Like, it's just, she doesn't mean anything to him. And yeah, that sounds horrible.
So, do you have any theories on her?
I don't know if, is she the one who has his child at some point?
Has his child?
Yeah, he says something about having had a child once, right?
Well, yeah, back in one of his older versions, his early versions,
really?
he had a family. I told you, I think it's the first Doctor traveled with his granddaughter.
I mean, I guess he wouldn't know about it if it were her.
Right.
'Cause he's the one who talked about it in the first place.
Right.
Maybe she just, she could just be a companion, but it feels like more than that to me. I feel like they had a thing.
That she knows him really well, and it's, parsed out really slowly with little things, like she has a sonic screwdriver that is identical to his, that he clearly gave to her. And she's got this book, this diary of all of the times that they've met up that he can't read because that's his future, her past. So they know each other, but he doesn't know her yet.
Right.
And that's what's upsetting to her, is she's had so many encounters with him that she doesn't remember what it was like to not know him. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time she's ever run into him where, this is his first time meeting her. Mm-hmm. And that is a lot like The Time Traveler's Wife, except that in that book, when Henry meets Claire for the first time, she knows, oh, this is the first time you're meeting me.
Right.
So,
and she has to figure it out also, because he doesn't tell her when the first time is.
Right.
So she has to look at him and realize that there's no spark of recognition or anything.
Right. And that's what's different with River, is she expects him to know her and he doesn't, and she doesn't just go, "Oh, right, time travel, okay." Mm-hmm. She's upset.
Which is kind of weird because it seems like she knows about the time travel.
Yeah, she obviously does.
So it's weird that she gets more upset than Claire does in the same circumstance.
Yeah, it's like she's almost like her feelings are hurt. It's being done purposefully. He's just refusing to recognize her when she should be like, "Oh, okay, this is his first time meeting me, so let me tread a little lightly here." But instead she's like, "Look at all these things I have that clearly came from you." Mm-hmm. And confusing him even more. Because he's like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like it has to be something romantic to me.
Okay.
The only reason I say that is because it feels other level to just being a companion because he gave her a sonic screwdriver. Because that feels like something that he doesn't just give people.
We've never seen him do it so far.
Yeah, so I feel like there was one other person who had one. Who was it? The other doctor. No, master. The master? Did he have one? He had one, right?
Yeah.
So
I think he made one.
Did he?
I don't think he had it to start with. Because he started out as, like, being hidden in a human body. But once he, like, becomes Saxon and whatever, he had a sonic.
Okay. So yeah, just based on that and based on the fact that she has a diary of encounters that are spaced far enough apart that she can ask, did we do this yet?
Yeah.
That's not like how things go with a companion. She'd have been with him for a given period of time.
Right.
So it feels like it has to be some sort of weird, like, I don't know,
there's
series of space blind dates.
There's a couple other things, too. Like, she has that gun that he calls it a squareness gun.
Oh, yeah, that Jack had.
Yeah.
I noticed that. I forgot about that.
And
yeah, so maybe
the
she's...
sort of underlying idea there is that Jack left that on the TARDIS, and she ends up with it somehow.
Is she the child of Bo?
No, but the idea, I guess, is that she was on the TARDIS at some point and found it or was given it.
Yeah.
And then...
How does that timing work out, though? Wouldn't that have been before?
I think it stopped... Because that was the first time we met Jack. He had that gun.
Right.
And I think he just left it. Oh, because the doctor, like, fucking left him. Remember? He, like, leaves him on his dying ship. Then he goes back and saves him. But I think he just left it on the TARDIS because it wasn't working anymore.
But if it was on the TARDIS in the past and isn't now, or is it now?
I don't
she
know.
Doesn't get it until the future.
I don't know. It's not like we've seen it, but that's...
Now, see, this is why we need a fuller tour of the TARDIS, guys. This is what I'm saying. We need a fucking 100% inventory of everything that's on board so that we can make sense of things like this.
She also knows Donna's name.
Right. Yeah, she's like... And fucking Donna does not show nearly the interest she should when this woman gets a look of horror on her face when Donna asks what happens to her. Donna... Girl, have a little bit more curiosity.
Well,
ask
maybe
again.
What happens to her is she becomes a face on a statue.
Maybe. I mean, it would explain that expression. But I don't think that's Donna's fate. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
That would be a twist.
Yeah, it would. That's why it's called Barnes & Noble.
Because it's in a library.
On the other guy, was his last name Barnes by any chance?
I don't think
His
so.
face was donated by something Barnes.
I don't think so.
It'd be really great if that were true. I don't think so. I'm not going to go back and check. But yeah, this. Okay, so yeah, the expression on this lady's face on River.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I keep wanting to say, I don't even know what I keep wanting to say. Just River does not feel like a name, even though I know it is. And it's not even that uncommon. But yeah, when she is talking to Donna about the doctor, like not recognizing her, that's pretty heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And this is when, after they have the whole thing with Miss Evangelista and realizing what's going on with her, we have Dr. Moon coming to speak with a little girl I don't think they ever say her name, do they?
No.
And he says there's the real world and there's the world of nightmares. Sorry to tell you, kid, but the nightmares are real. And this world that's happy and brightly colored and full of parents and food and crayons is not real. Which just, ouch. Really. And he explains to her that these people are trapped in that library and they are counting on you. These people need to be saved. The shadows are moving again. And only you can save them. Which, again, just really seems like a cruel, shitty thing to do to a child. But there it is. So where do we go from here? Oh, we then have the conversation between Donna and River. Oh, and we have the weird thing with the doctor throwing a chicken leg.
Well, this is where he explains what they are. They're called the Vashta Nerada.
Mm-hmm.
And they are usually not that dangerous because they're so small. You know, they are on Earth. They're everywhere. But, you know, he says, like, they tend to feed on roadkill. Every once in a while, a person goes missing. But for the most part, they're not concentrated enough to make that much of a difference, to do that much damage. They just kind of, he calls it like when you see light, like dust in a ray of light or something. Mm-hmm. So they're like really small. But this is a swarm. This is so many of them that they can just... And he also accurately describes them as piranhas in the air. Because they do that thing that you just think that piranhas do, or they just eat the flesh instantly from something. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, what a fucking...
shadows that melt the flesh.
What a crazy idea.
Yeah.
Like, how scary. There are some people that find that this episode, like, Blink is considered one of the scariest episodes, I guess, because the idea, like, you've got this statue, you blink, and they disappear you. But I feel like this is worse, because at least with the angels, you still get to live a life. You just live a life someplace else, sometime else. But this, you're just dead instantly, and your bones. And it's shadows. Shadows are everywhere.
And you're boned. But kind of, yeah. And yeah, shadows you have no, because she says every shadow, and he says no, but any shadow.
Yeah. Like, that's really scary.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I thought that Blink was frightening much more because of the atmosphere of these, like, statues being creepy than because of what those statues wind up doing to you. Like, it sucks 100%, but it really, their fates weren't so terrible that it was, like, unthinkable.
Right.
And this is just, you know, the one thing that I can say is that it's, like, kind of over quickly. At least the pain is. Consciousness apparently hangs around if you're in one of those suits. But if you're not, I guess it wouldn't. So for Donna, if she got her face eaten off, it would be quick, I guess. So congrats on that, Donna.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's that. You don't suffer, but the fact that this could be in any shadow, and you would be gone before you even realize it's happened. It's more than...
Hopefully.
It's like, I'm not as scared of things I can see. Like, the angels in Blink are creepy, and I think that's such a cool idea.
Definitely.
And, you know, putting my fear of clowns aside, because you obviously can see them. They're just, whatever, evil. But movies that scare me the most, or things that scare me the most, are the unseen stuff. It's that,
Agreed.
like Signs. I thought Signs was such a scary movie because you don't see anything for so long. And it's just that feeling of, like, dread. And
It's so funny because you always point to Signs with the, like, scary because they don't show you anything, but that's the movie that I always point to for scary because they wound up showing you a thing and it ruined the thing that was scary a minute ago. Because that is genuinely, like, it's not even me trying to be contrary to you. That is the movie that I bring up because they wound up, like, ruining this sense of dread that I had been building, and I was, like, enjoying by showing me these stupid looking fucking aliens.
The aliens in that movie were scarier before you saw them completely. When you just saw the hands or whatever, like when the hand is coming underneath the door, that was scary. It was, and then, or when you see like a flash of it on the news, that was scary. But when you actually see it in the living room with Joaquin Phoenix, it's like, okay, fine, it's just a giant alien and it's not as scary anymore. But up to that point, that movie was really, really scary to me because I'm also kind of afraid of those aliens in general. But just the not being able to fully understand what it is, where it is, the noises because it's on the roof, like that kind of stuff scares me more. The suspenseful, unseen stuff. Blair Witch was another one that was just really, really scary to me because you don't see anything.
Yeah, that one freaks me out so bad still. Don't laugh at me, guys. I don't care. It's scary.
That's the scariest movie I've ever seen.
The scariest movie I've ever seen was Babadook.
I haven't watched that yet.
It was also very, like, kind of cathartic. So it doesn't have the lingering sort of dreadful feeling that even still Blair Witch has.
Yeah. So that's why I find this story to be a little scarier than some of the other ones that people consider scary. It's because they can be anywhere and you don't even see them. So it's that, like, you know, having to watch your step. Having to pay attention to your own fucking shadow. Yeah.
Yeah, because proper Dave winds up with two shadows, the doctor notices.
And then one disappears, and where did it go? Inside his suit.
Ew, hate it.
Yeah.
Poor Dave. Yeah, so it eats him, and then animates the suit, basically, and, like, comes at them, which honestly is also really funny, but still scary, which is tough.
Who turned out the lights?
Oh my god. And then there's that fucking, like, skull illuminated by, like, the helmet light.
Yeah, it's a good visual.
Oh my god, it's so silly. But I was here for it still. Because, see, this is the thing. If you manage to pull everything off, you can do a silly, stupid thing, and I'm fine. You just can't do only silly, stupid things and then be like, what?
You can't do only silly, stupid things and also have a billion plot holes in there that you're like, well, but how does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm fine with the visual of a skeleton head inside of that suit. That's good. It's silly, but it's effective. I like it. Somebody should do that for Halloween.
Yeah, this would be a pretty good costume. Although, the thing about costumes with hats or helmets and masks is that you can't drink easily while you're wearing them. You get to make one really good entrance and then go around with a half a costume all night.
My friends one year were a robot couple, and they made their costumes out of, like, cardboard boxes and stuff. And they had these giant robot heads. And they kept having to, like, take their heads off so that they could have conversations and have drinks. And then they'd put their heads back on so that they could, like, go around the party and have people be like, oh my god, your costume. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right.
I had a friend who had this, like, amazing mask 2-3 years ago that, like, the inside of its mouth went inside of his own mouth.
What?
So that he could move his mouth and the mouth of the mask would move genuinely. And you could see the inside of a mouth that looked crazy because it was also, like, silicone. Let me tell you. It looked dope as hell. It was the most uncomfortable shit. He kept on taking it off and, like, he would, like, pull back the bottom of it so that he could have a drink, and you would just see the fucking sweat like pouring, and eventually he just took the whole thing off, and it took so. I think I had to help him get it off because it was just really stuck on his head because it was like specially sized. I think.
What was the mask of?
Got it made. It was some weird like creature that I had never heard of that I think was from D&D.
Okay.
But it basically looked like a corpse head, but kind of reptilian. And yeah, it was just, and he like told me how much he spent on it. I think he spent like $400 on it. It was insane. And I was just like, was that worth it? And he was like, now that I've worn it, no. It looked cool. And when I first tried it on, I was like, oh yeah, worth every penny. But now that I'm realizing how like awkward it is, maybe not.
That same couple, a couple of years ago, I saw pictures because they live in Arizona, so I don't get to go to the Halloween parties with them anymore. But they were Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis from Beetlejuice. But when
Nice.
Alec Baldwin does that crazy thing with his face and she stretches her face out and they were those versions.
Creepy.
Man, it was amazing. Amazing costumes. But those were masks too. I don't know how they functioned at the party.
Yeah, I love a good costume, and I'm willing to sacrifice a lot in terms of functionality and comfort for a cool costume. But I draw the line at not being able to eat or drink. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I even if it's makeup that'll get smudged by eating or drinking, I can deal with that. But you just gotta let me be able to do it, and I'll just deal with a bit of the consequences there.
I'm not a wearing a mask kind of costumer. I want my face to be. I would just feel too closed in. I just don't. Mm-hmm. I don't like that. So.
So the doctor brings Donna to this spot where he can send her back to the TARDIS because
he wants to keep her safe. And
she doesn't have a suit. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a protocol that he used with Rose when he had the TARDIS return Rose home. Mm-hmm. So he's got that in place in case he doesn't get back there by a certain point. The TARDIS will just take her home.
Yeah, and he says, let me explain, and tricks her into quieting down and cooperating for a second.
Yeah.
And then just sends her on her way anyway, which is messed up. And then we see her beginning to materialize in the TARDIS, and all of a sudden she starts screaming and gets pulled back out again. Mm-hmm. But the doctor at this point is distracted because Mr. Lux is up in here causing trouble. Where is this the part that? Oh no, this is when, because Dave has not been infected yet when he does this to Donna. That's right. I thought that this was after Dave started chasing them, but no, Dave is still alive at this point, and then he stops, and the doctor's like, "Are you okay in there?" And then that's when he starts to be like, "No, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. No, I'm fine." Mm-hmm. I love that. It's so creepy. Honestly, the whole you are normal seeming, except that we can't see your face, and then we can tell by the way you're talking that something is wrong.
Yeah,
I just it's another bit of that unseen threat sort of thing being so much scarier. That it's just small behavioral tics that tip you off that something's up. So, yeah, then he begins to chase them, and it's just so funny. I'm sorry. It just is. I love it so much. Hey, who turned out the lights? Over and over and over again. And I'm sorry, guys. I can't get over how funny it is because the way the helmet just sort of jiggles when he steps, because he's stepping in this really overemphasized deliberate way because it's supposed to be this other thing that's controlling the suit. Mm-hmm. Right? So it just, whenever he takes a step, there's a bit of a jiggle to the helmet because there's not enough holding the helmet down anymore because there's not a human head in it now. It's just a little skeleton skull. It's just
so thoughtful.
Yeah.
like, somebody put a lot of, like, biological thought into that. Like, how would the suit move if there was no longer, like, the flesh and hair and everything to hold this helmet in place better?
Ugh. Flesh and hair. Why'd you have to say it like that?
Sorry.
Meanwhile, the little girl tells her father that Donna Noble's been saved, and he looks at her and he's like, what? And we hear this, like, buzzing sound, and the doctor winds up discovering her. And this is, okay, so I feel like maybe this little girl's being lied to, and she's being told to save people when really she's, like, not doing that.
What is she
I
doing
feel like
to them,
maybe
then?
putting them in books.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Donna's not in a book, she's in a statue.
Well, her face.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know where her brain is. Doesn't seem like her brain's there.
No, she's just repeating what she's been programmed with.
Yeah.
Donna Noble has left the library. Donna Noble has been saved.
Ugh. Oh, I forgot about this amazing moment where the doctor is arguing with Mr. Lux, and he wants him to give up some piece of information. I can't even remember what it was now. And Lux won't do it because of the contract. And
Right.
the doctor is just like, seriously, I don't want these people to die because of some man's pride. To which River says, well, then why don't you sign his contract? Which I fucking chortled, you guys. The look on his face when he realizes that he just phrased that just the way that she needed. Left that door wide open. Oh, that was a good moment. And in the next moment, she's like, yeah, I didn't sign it either. I'm getting as bad as you, as she puts it. But I really, really did like that because, listen, the doctor is too prideful. We all know it. Like, he needs to chill with that a little bit. But I really love that whole moment and her saying it with this, like, eyebrow raised, sort of, like, sardonic voice. She fucking knows him. Yes, she do.
So, Stephen Moffat didn't tell any of the actors except Alex Kingston and only a few members of the crew who River Song is. So, David Tennant said that he had no idea how to act opposite her. And so he just kind of tried to figure out in his own head who she might be. And he played it that way. So on the commentary, he said that he had the doctor assume that she's a future regeneration of him because even though that made no sense, it made more sense than anything else he could come up with.
Weird.
So he's just
okay.
You can see it on his face, like he's so like confused by her, and I don't know why he wouldn't just be like, oh, so obviously at some point in my future, we know each other very well, obviously. He's just like, that doesn't make sense. This makes sense less, but I'm going to go with it. She must be me?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
bizarre.
that doesn't feel like the most logical leap to make, but honestly, for the doctor to assume that somebody who is important to him is just another version of him is very on brand. So that seems fair to me. So this is when he asks for the, thingamajigger to give him information because he didn't get the signal that he was supposed to get that she made it onto the TARDIS, and then she turns around and it's her, and he's staring at her in horror, and he's like touching her face, and everybody else is like running past him, and finally River like grabs his arm and drags him along, and she keeps saying Donna Noble has left the library. Donna Noble has been saved, as fucking Skeleton Man walks past her. It's just the most bonkers ending scene, you guys. It's so funny, but it's so horrible. Oh, God. Yeah, no, that's what it's going to be. Owen will go as Skeleton inside of a spacesuit, and I will go as Donna Noble, the library assistant. That's what it'll be. Perfect.
That's great. Can I go as River's song in the astronaut suit?
Yes, definitely.
Really?
Be sardonic all night.
Yes. I love her.
So it ends with the lights in front of them turning out, and they have to stop because they don't want to walk into the shadows, of course. And the last line is, "Hey, who turned out the light?" Donna Noble has left the library. And that's the end. And I had to turn it off really quick before it started to go into a preview of the next episode because it just keeps doing that.
Yeah, did it though? Because I feel like with this one, it didn't actually jump into a preview.
I don't know. I stopped it too soon.
Yeah, it didn't.
I literally stopped it with the dot in the middle of the screen between Doctor and Who as it starts to like slide by. Yeah, so I don't know what to think, but I'm very interested to see where this winds up. I have no ideas.
Sweet.
Yeah. So that's fun. I'm sorry, guys. All right. I need you to use that image for this week's episode.
Well, you go ahead and send it to me.
For the group. I gotta go back. I'll get a good one. It's so funny.
While you do that, I will read a review that we received.
Yay!
It's different and great. 5 stars by Vanilla MC from the United States. Why do I love this podcast? Natasha and Jamie are intelligent, personable, and the analysis is top-notch. But here's the reason that makes this a standout podcast for me. I adore this era of Doctor Who, but it's not my favorite. That will probably never change. But this podcast has increased my love and appreciation for the RTD era and added to its pile of good things. Thank you, Jamie and Natasha.
Yay!
Yay!
Well, thank you for listening and for leaving a review. It is always appreciated.
Yes, very much.
I can't get a good image of this skeleton man's face. They're all like just kind of intercut with something a little bit like, oh, here we go. Okay, I got one. But yeah, guys, I really always do appreciate so much when y'all do reviews. Like, it means a lot. It's extremely helpful to us too. I think that people don't leave them because they're just like, yeah, who cares? It's not a big deal. And I'm like, it really does add up when people take that seriously.
There's certain things that are really effective that I've found in listening to other podcasts. Like on You Must Remember This, at the end of the podcast, she didn't always do this, but somewhere in the middle of her run, because I'm about halfway caught up, she starts saying to leave reviews, to rate and review on iTunes, but also to tell whoever you can, however you can, use Twitter, Facebook, word of mouth, like everything helps get listeners. And I kind of like that. Just sort of like, if, you know, it's sort of a standard speech at the end, but to always, because I think people just don't think about it. Or sometimes they're like, they mean to leave a review, but they forget. And then when they're listening and we say it, then they'll be like, oh, I should leave a review. I've got a minute right now. I'll just do it.
I know a lot of people, it's a pain in the butt to leave a review because they don't have iTunes. And you have to download iTunes to leave a review, which I understand that frustration. But if you would just go ahead and just do that anyway, that'd be great because it's super helpful. And like the thing is, too, if you listen to more than one podcast, you download iTunes once and then you can support a bunch of shows by leaving reviews on all of them. You know, if it's not like you're just downloading it for us and then deleting it. Like, you can download it and then support a bunch of, and it just doesn't cost you anything is another thing. Cause I know a lot of people want to support the show, but they aren't able to like be patrons, which I totally get. And that's a way to be super supportive without actually having to spend any money, which I know I always appreciate finding out about ways to do a thing that I wanted that doesn't cost anything. Thumbs up.
Krista said that, even just doing the rating. Oh, no, that's not what I meant. Krista said subscribing will bring you up in the ranks, too. Like, even if you don't listen to us on the iTunes podcast app, if you subscribe in iTunes, it helps us. if that makes sense.
I mean, subscribing and even leaving a bad review. Don't leave a bad review. I'm not saying to leave a bad review.
Please
I'm
don't
just
leave a bad
saying,
review.
You know. But yeah, I just always appreciate these little gestures, and I see it when somebody like tags us on Facebook. They're like, hey, I'm listening to Unspoiled right now, or on Twitter, of course, and it is just really appreciated. That stuff like gets noticed more than you would think, and it also just looks good. Like if somebody's searching Unspoiled Pod or Unspoiled Show on Twitter, they're going to see not only our account, but they're going to see like 12 other people tweeting it Unspoiled and be like, oh, apparently a lot of people are interacting with them and a lot of people are listening to this, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just good. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get this list of patrons, and I am sorry, I'm having some weird issue with Patreon right now, and it is just showing me things from oldest from 2015. Why isn't it just... Oh, I have to scroll all the way down. That's really not helpful, actually. This is not in order either. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to do this next week. I'm sorry, guys. But those of you who became patrons, thank you all so much. I am, I think, 74% of the way to the Patreon goal that we set for covering Song of Ice and Fire.
Nice.
74, yep. So, yeah, all of you can get... If you can become patrons soon or up your pledge if you are already a patron, it's inching forward, and we need to reach it by March, so it's not crunch time yet. So I understand some people are kind of waiting until it's a little bit closer. But if you need some reasons to do it sooner, we have Unspooked happening right now. I'm going to be doing the hiatus from Twilight coverage, and because Miles's wife is going to be going into labor and he's taking paternity leave. And in that time, I'm going to be doing some Great British Bake Off coverage with, yeah, it's going to be like brief episodes, but I'm going to be doing that with Krista for Natasha Bites Back, which is the sort of interim show that I do when I'm sort of between patrons only shows.
Am I allowed to be offended that I was not asked to do this?
You are not. Natasha Bites Back works because Krista doesn't know anything about cooking.
Then why? She's not going to appreciate that show to the level that it should be appreciated.
Oh. Okay. Well, I guess we've heard how Jamie really feels about it. Krista. Why don't you go into the bathroom so that you can turn your back to the mirror and pull that knife out of your back?
I love Krista. I love Great British Bake Off. And I want to talk about it.
Well, if your schedule lines up with whenever we decide to do it, you are always welcome to guest on it. But we have to keep the episodes like half an hour or less. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it's been fun watching it, and I'm mad that it's week to week now. And of course, you know, there's all of the back catalog stuff. And if you are a higher level patron, you get to come to the live recordings with me and Rashawn every other week. And then on the other weeks, I do Unsober with her for $20 and up patrons. And this week's episode is going to be about Halloween candy. And last week's episode was about scary movies. We do a lot of seasonal stuff. We do a lot of like, you know, what do you feel like today stuff. Next month, there's going to be an episode about bad sex. And all of the bad sex that we had when we were young. And maybe, unfortunately, are still having, but mostly when we were young and dumb.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be fun.
That will be fun.
Is there
you know what's good about that is that most people don't like to admit that it's happened, and it's just something we can all share.
I mean, guys, bad sex is part of growing up.
Yeah.
It just is. Mm-hmm. Like... If you haven't had bad sex, you can't know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. You have to have the thing that doesn't work to know what works. And hoo boy, the things that don't work sure don't work.
Nope.
Ooh, it's awful. Some of this. That'll be a fun episode to do.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much again for listening. I hope that you've enjoyed the episode, and we will see you next week with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
Unspoiled Network podcast.